All right, I'm so happy to have Vlad Duthiers, someone I'm lucky to have called a former colleague, a friend. Vlad, you wear a lot of hats these days at CBS.
Yeah, right now, last March, I was promoted to featured co-host of CBS Mornings, which is really exciting for me. I'm also a national correspondent for CBS News. And as you know, because you helped start the streaming platform at CBS News, I'm an anchor with Anne-Marie Green on CBS News streaming. So yeah, 3 hats, but they're kind of all the same. I'm a correspondent and anchor at CBS News.
And just while we're talking here, it's probably, Vlad, just about 10 years ago this month when I walked into the newsroom and was strolling around, and we were trying to, we were saying conceptually, we're launching this 24-hour streaming channel, and I walk over to your desk and I say, Vlad, are you interested in anchoring?
And I remember no, because I don't know how to anchor. I've never anchored a day in my life. And so you must have me mistaken for someone else.
Yeah, I remember that.
But yeah. And, and what was interesting about that is you said, no, you said, just come and do some rehearsals. We're months away from launching. Yeah. Yep. You just have to stand there and read the teleprompter. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. So I come down and I do a couple of rehearsals, and then the national desk said, are you done with the internet thing? And I said, yes. They go, well, you're going to Boston tonight for some stories. So I said, okay. So I go to Boston, and then I do the story, and the next day the desk calls again. Terry Stewart, who's the VP of News, calls me, and she goes, hey, you got to come back. And I go, come back for what? She goes, they want you to come back and do more rehearsals of that internet thing.
And internet thing, yes.
And I remember going are you sure it's me? Because I told Mosheh and everybody that I'm not an anchor, and they probably looked at my tape and were like, yeah, he's absolutely right, he's not an anchor. And so maybe they mean,
and that's why we wanted him. And that's why we wanted him, because Vlad, I was like, you talk like a person, you have a conversation. They didn't train you through local news to speak in a certain way to people. And for the quote internet thing, stream it's funny that only 10 years ago, and now everything is internet.
Exactly.
Thing.
It was only 10 years ago.
I was like, all right, he's got the right tone, he's got the right feel, he's a Renaissance man. He can talk about music.
Well, thank you for believing in me. I didn't believe in myself, but you did. So that I'll always be grateful for that.
Always, man. Well, listen, as we've been watching the events unfold in Haiti, I wanted to reach out to you. I have been seeing some of your coverage, given your family background, but also your reporting. Want to talk about this, but let's reset. What is your connection to Haiti?
So my parents were born in Haiti. They left in the early 1960s when the island and the country was very, very different than what it is today and what it is even when I was a child. They came like other immigrants to go to college. At the time, Haiti was a vibrant country. Although it was under dictatorship, many of its schools, most of its schools, were very, very good, like quality schools that graduated high schoolers who were able to come. My father went to Columbia University and easily was accepted because, he had received a stellar education in Haiti. And so that's my connection. My father's family originated in France, but had been in Haiti for some generations. And most of my immediate family left in the early 1960s. It sort of gives away my age. I'm in my 50s. So perhaps people were thinking that, either I was born in Haiti or my family came over in the 70s or 80s, but we've been here in the United States for now almost 2 generations.
So, the Haiti you describe of the 1960s, is a very different Haiti than the one we see today, or even the one of the past couple decades. Take us through, Vlad, you've traveled there multiple times. Unfortunately, you traveled there during many times of tragedy on the island. But how did Haiti get to the place that it's at today?
It's an important question, and one that I think a lot of people in this country wonder themselves, because if you have been watching what's happened in Haiti just in the last decade or even in the last 20 years, generally speaking, what you see is tragedy. What you see are images that are horrific, either due to natural disasters or poverty and disease, or because of political violence, either coups and recently an assassination of a president. And if you are a millennial or you're a Gen Z person who's interested in the news, you might not know that Haiti before these times was this incredibly vibrant, and still is, and I should make the point before we even start down this road, that a lot of the violence and what we're seeing today is centered in Port-au-Prince, the capital of Haiti. The rest of the country is actually relatively stable, but because most of the industry, the heavy industry, the international airport, the manufacturing, all that is sort of centered in the capital. Mm-hmm. That's why we talk about Port-au-Prince, and we use the word Haiti to describe the country. But the rest of the country is stable. But before this period, this was just like any other Caribbean island, playground for the rich and the wealthy. In fact,
right, it shares the same island as Dominican Republic, which is a huge tourist destination for Americans.
That's right, which only became that tourist destination in the 60s and 70s, whereas Haiti before that had been a tourist destination going back to the 30s and 40s and 50s. This was in its heyday. This was considered the pearl of the Antilles, right? This was the most beautiful island. The portion of the island that is Haiti was considered one of the most beautiful regions in the Caribbean. And before that, when it was still a French colony, it was the jewel. When people try to understand how was France incredibly wealthy and powerful during its monarchy phase, and even during the rise of Napoleon, it was because of the island of Saint-Domingue, which is Haiti and the Dominican Republic. It was considered a jewel in the crown of the French Empire. Haiti in those days was abundant in natural resources, indigo and sugar, coffee, that fueled the expansion of the French Empire into other parts of the world. So, of course, you can imagine in the early 19th century, late 18th century, early 19th century, when the slaves revolted against colonial rule of France, that Napoleon would not want to lose the island. So he sent all of his troops. And again, this is Napoleon, considered one of the greatest military masterminds in the history of the modern world, sent his French soldiers and military and navy to retake the island from the slaves. And what these slaves were able to accomplish had never been accomplished in the history of the world, Moshe. What these slaves accomplished is they threw off the shackles of their bondage and of slavery to defeat an empire. Imagine Puerto Rico, if you want to use modern terms, defeating the United States. That's how you have to sort of think about it in the 19th century. In 1804, Haiti declared its independence. And it was considered to be a light for the rest of the world. It sort of sparked the Pan-African independence movement. It sparked independent movements in the rest of the Caribbean and Latin America. This was an incredible thing that these slaves and these former slaves had done under the leadership of Toussaint Louverture. What happened, though, to lead to where we are today is France very quickly forced Haiti to pay reparations to France. The formerly enslaved had to pay reparations to their enslavers.
For their independence, basically.
Right. To continue to have their independence, because a couple of other things went into factor here. One, the United States refused to recognize Haiti as an independent nation after it had gained its independence. Why would they do that? Because in 1804, slavery was still the law of the land in the south of the United States. You did not want to give Black Americans the notion that they could also do and accomplish what slaves had done in Haiti. So the United States refused to trade with Haiti, and other countries followed suit. So Haiti had no means of trading with other countries to increase their GDP. And on top of that, you're paying these reparations to France, which
which in modern dollars is billions, tens of billions of dollars, right?
Exactly. Tens of billions of dollars that could have gone to continuing to develop the country in the way that we've seen in other Caribbean countries in the region. Couple that with the fact that in 1914, the United States Marines raided the National Bank of Haiti and walked out with what little gold. It wasn't a rich country, but it still had its gold reserves, about $500,000. They walked out of the banks with that money. That money was eventually used to help create City National Bank, which ultimately became Citigroup, the company that we all know. And then 1915, the United States actually invaded Haiti with a group of Marines and occupied the country until the 1930s. You couple that with the incredibly corrupt political leadership that has existed over time in Haiti, including a brutal dictatorship under Francois Duvalier, known as Papa Doc, who was a dictator who took what had existed in the country before, which is different ports, different centers of manufacturing, and he centralized that. All dictators do this, right? They centralize everything into the capital so that they can control it, and they have access to everything. So that meant that the other parts of the country suffered because they lost some of the industries that they had that gave vibrancy to their regions. You then add on in the modern era successive coups, and then, of course, a natural disaster, or an earthquake in 2010, January of 2010, which killed an estimated 250,000 to 500,000 people, and which, in my estimation, is part of the reason that Haiti has struggled so mightily to come back from even what it was. When I visited the island as a child in the 1970s, it wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible either. And then, of course, the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse and the rise of an unelected prime minister, Ariel Henry. You can see why, with all these things, if you take them in totality, that the Haitian people, from the very beginning of their independence, were sort of never able to actually compete at a level that perhaps other countries might be able to compete because of these factors against them.
Yeah, a lot of external factors there, and then you laid out the natural factor. This earthquake in 2010 seems like a huge demarcation point. The Haiti before the earthquake and the Haiti that has struggled to recover after the earthquake. There was a lot of international aid that came in. Was it just insufficient, unorganized? Why is it that the island has not been able to recover over the past 14 years?
Yeah, the amount of billions of dollars raised in the wake of that earthquake from generous people all over the world, and especially the United States. And again, it goes back to the issue of corrupt leadership, corrupt political leadership. The sad part of this tale is that there have been people don't imagine that in Haiti that there are multimillionaires. They are there. There are multimillionaires
still living there
in Haiti. They're still living there. There is a billionaire in Haiti, who is he's a billionaire. He's immensely powerful. You don't hear a lot from them over what's been happening over the last several years, right? The fact of the matter is that over time, over successive presidencies, these political leaders, and in some cases the business leaders of Haiti, have either funneled away the money. That was very true, for example, in the Duvalier regime. And in subsequent regimes have also been alleged to have funneled and siphoned money that was meant to help rebuild the country, help rebuild the infrastructure that was sorely needed after the earthquake. And that is still an ongoing issue. There is still that corruption that exists in Haiti. You have in Ariel Henry, a man who was unelected. And this is the problem that Haiti has faced throughout its modern era. You have the United States, Canada, France, other countries the other Caribbean countries that all have a voice and all have a say into what should happen in Haiti without ever giving the sovereign nation its own ability to decide its own course of action. Of course, corruption exists in Haiti. It exists everywhere in the world. But when you are dealing with forces that are greater than a population that is in many instances poverty stricken, those other forces have a greater influence as to what happens, either through who becomes president or who becomes prime minister. And when you have somebody who tries to push against that, the forces that often have a say over the voices of the people in Haiti are the ones that ultimately have their will done. There's a lot more to say, but as a reporter and as a journalist, I can't say anything to you that I haven't been able to confirm myself. Yeah. But if you talk to ordinary Haitians, they'll tell you what they actually think is going on.
I think this is really important, what you're doing, laying out the multi-century history here. The context is really important. And, one big question that comes up, and you addressed it briefly there with the U.S. occupation for 20 years there, is the U.S. role in all of this. Over the course of the past century, I think many Americans who are familiar, who were watching news in the 90s, remember Haiti really getting onto the TV screens with Aristide and Bill Clinton at the time. But what has been the U.S. role over the course of the past few decades? Because certainly right now, there's a discussion of how much should the U.S. be doing, how much more should they be doing, how much less should they be doing, and basically their role, the U.S. factor in how we got here.
Yeah, I mean, look, the United States and Haiti have a history that dates back to the Revolutionary War in the United States. Haitians fought on the side of the colonists in the Revolutionary War, and did so gladly. Why did they do that? Because they were inspired by the ideals of our founding fathers, and the notion of liberty and independence from a greater power, which was at the time Great Britain, and so they supported that notion. And fought on the side of the United States that helped the United States gain its liberty from Great Britain. And then you fast forward to the fact that the island is so close to the United States, and
right.
so
it's a quick flight from Miami.
You had a vibrant group of immigrants, my parents included, who came to the United States to study and stayed and helped build the fabric of this society. I was born here in New York City. There are thousands of Haitian Americans here who have a story very similar to mine, where, you have our parents who came here for the same reason all immigrants come to the United States, for a better life, for an opportunity. Again, at the time that my parents came here, Haiti was under a brutal dictatorship. And so they saw in the United States an opportunity to live under the banner of freedom that is offered to everybody who comes here. They went to school and they worked, and my father worked and my mother worked, and I was born and was able to take advantage of the fruits of this country.
Right.
Well, the reality,
Wyclef is somebody who was born in Haiti and came to Brooklyn as a
child.
Wyclef
right? was
yeah.
He was born in Haiti. He came here as a child, if I recall.
Yeah.
He came here probably a few years after, probably in the 70s. If memory serves. He probably came to the United States in the 1970s.
He came here in the late 70s. Yeah.
He came here in the late 70s, which was, again, there have been different immigrant groups that have come from Haiti to the United States for different reasons. So beyond the fact that Haitians fought in the Revolutionary War, you have this brutal occupation by the United States that began in 1915. And part of it was for the reasons that I stated before, which was to have access to Haiti's natural resources, have access to its political leaders, to influence the will of the United States, impose the will of the United States on the Haitian people. And ultimately what that meant for the United States and Haiti is during the anti-communist phase of our country's history, in the 1940s and 50s, this as well as I do, because this wasn't just happening in the Caribbean. It happened everywhere in Latin America and in Europe. If you were a staunch anti-communist, or you purported to be, then the United States was willing to overlook the brutal factors that led to your rise. As long as you were firmly in the camp of anti-communism and you would not allow what Fidel Castro had done in Cuba to happen in an island or in South America or Central America, then the United States was happy to turn a blind eye to what you were doing, whether it was, brutalizing your own people as François Duvalier did, or raiding Haiti's coffers, and sharing it with business interests in the United States and yourself. That was okay.
Yep.
Right.
It was the realpolitik. I mean, you saw a bit of it with Henry Kissinger. You hear it in audio tapes between Kissinger and Nixon talking about the world, and they view the world through one lens, which is, are they with us or are they against us? I mean, we sort of heard a version of that post 9/11 as well. But,
right.
But ultimately, if you look at the latter half of the 20th century, the U.S. And the Soviet Union were basically going country by country and trying to support leaders who were loyal to them, and what they did in their own time with their own people was much less important.
Right. And so you can see why Haitians feel that the United States, in many ways, because of its imposition of its own will onto Haiti, owes Haiti now the respect and the dignity of trying to help them in any way that they can to achieve the promise of the revolution of 1804, which is independence and a vibrant democracy. It doesn't mean, that the Haitians want to see American boots on the ground in Haiti again, but it does mean that you allow Haitians to have a voice in partnership with the United States and with Canada in deciding their own fate rather than having it imposed on them in Washington or in another country in the world, like what they're doing right now in Jamaica.
Yeah, I mean, and you've heard that recently from Secretary of State Blinken, who's like, we don't want to put boots on the ground, but we, will commit a couple $100 million as part of this international force. So I guess, the question is, as you've been covering this most recent crisis, it seems like they've been looking to the Kenyans, of all people, to lead this international force. Explain that connection. How did that come about? And the underlying issue, Vlad, how did Haiti get to a situation where its military and police are outnumbered by gangs?
Well, so after the coup against President Aristide by Raoul Cedras, who was an army commander.
So this is the 1990s now.
That's right, in the 1990s. President Aristide disbanded the military in Haiti. And you know this as well as I do, having covered geopolitics for most of your career, that people have short-term memories. And so even the brutal dictatorship of the Duvaliers, you see a lot of Haitians in the diaspora waxing eloquent about the nostalgia of that time. And the reason that they do that is because they say, well, the streets were clean and, kids were able to go to school and, and you don't see it just in Haiti. You see it everywhere. You see it in the Middle East.
In Iran, right?
Exactly.
There are people who, the Shah of Iran, it takes you to like the Biden quote, which is like, don't compare me to the Almighty, compare me to the alternative. So for Iranians, like, well, the Islamic clerics are pretty terrible. Maybe the Shah was okay.
Right. And that country's history in terms of U.S. influence on its leaders mirrors what I'm talking about with Haiti, right? The United States influence on the Shah of Iran. It mimics what because that was the way that the United States through the Central Intelligence Agency operated, which was ensuring that that every country sort of bent to the will of the United States in whatever way that we thought was advantageous to the U.S. And so Aristide disbanded the military because historically coups in Haiti had originated in the military, as they often do in other countries. And in doing that, that left that vacuum. A lot of those military men either came to the United States or formed part of the police departments that existed in Haiti. But when the earthquake happened, a lot of people died. A lot of police officers died. A lot of what we would call first responders were also killed and found themselves in dire straits. So that institution, the police institution, after the military institution went away, the police institution had also been crumbling over the course of many years, coupled with the corruption that exists anywhere where people are poor, and the police were not thought of as being on the side of the population.
So you lose the military in the 90s, you effectively lose the police force after the 2010 earthquake, and over the last decade, something has had to fill the gap, has had to fill the vacuum.
And the police, we know that this gang leader, and now there's a push in the for Haitians to say we should stop calling the gangs, and we should start calling them what they believe that they are, which are paramilitary units that because they have access to heavy weaponry that exists beyond what we would normally think of as gangs. Jimmy Cherizier, aka Barbecue, is a former police officer, and it's known that many police officers, even before they became part of these paramilitary units, were also in some ways gang leaders. They did echo the old Tonton Macoute. You remember that name? That was the secret police that François Duvalier and his son Jean-Claude Duvalier used to enforce their reign of terror on the population. They were a de facto political police, if you will, that existed, and so that's the use of paramilitary or gang violence as a way to exercise political will has always been, not always, but has been common in recent years in Haiti as well.
So we discussed the kind of post-earthquake aftermath, the rise of these gangs, and then you have the assassination in 2021. Who was Moise? Why was he assassinated? And what came after?
So I can answer two of those questions. Jovenel Moise was a businessman who had grown successful in his business, which was bananas, and he was called Banana Man in English.
You interviewed him when we were at CBS.
I did interview him.
Yeah.
I interviewed him right after he was elected, and he had ideas that to most people sounded good. And oftentimes these presidents will say to the press, especially the foreign press, the things that you want to hear, that their goal is to lift Haitians up out of poverty. His goal is to increase commerce and trade with other countries. I remember him distinctly telling me that even after the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, called Haiti a shithole country. I don't know if I can say that on your podcast.
You can. It's podcasting.
It's new media.
Your world. You still have the FCC. I don't have the FCC over
yes,
here.
And I'm just quoting a former president. That even after the former president had used that term to describe Haiti, that he was willing to work and sit down with former President Trump to figure out a path forward that would benefit the United States and Haitians. The question as to why he was assassinated, those are answers that those are questions that we've been asking as members of the press. It's not very, very clear. It's not even clear who ordered the assassination. It's not clear who actually carried out the assassination. There are people that have been arrested in conjunction or in connection with the assassination, but those are answers that are murky at best. And with the assassination of the president came the near collapse of the government. Ariel Henry was meant to step in as an interim prime minister. He was there to only simply shepherd the country to elections, but he repeatedly, even at the request of the United States, refused or was unable to hold those elections, which led to the rise of this violence, this current state of violence that we see right now. And as you know, he recently agreed to step down, but he hasn't officially stepped down. I think it's just that he's agreed to do so.
He's agreed to as long he's leading basically until there's a new government. The question is, right, how does that government come about and how long will that take?
And nobody really knows the answer to that because there have been meetings with Secretary Blinken in Jamaica with other leaders of the Caribbean region. And they've been discussing what to do with Haiti. But as you can imagine, it doesn't sit well with ordinary Haitians back in Haiti because there isn't a Haitian voice at the table. And so, again, Haiti finds itself in this situation where other outside powers and outside groups are deciding what should happen next in a country, again, that I can't stress enough was a light of the world when it gained its independence in 1804.
So this is the third century now of the retriggering of the trauma of external powers deciding the fate of Haiti.
That's a great and eloquent way to describe the situation that Haitians are feeling right now, that this has been their lot in life after. And why is it their lot in life? Their lot in life to suffer in this way, to have countries meddle in their internal affairs, is because of the audacity of what they accomplished in 1804. You will find many Haitians who believe that the fact that they accomplished what they did, slaves with nothing in the mountains, able to defeat one of the largest militaries on planet Earth, headed by one of the greatest, some say, commanders in military history, for that audacity, that they have been paying for that for their entire existence. That it was so audacious to do so and so unnerving to the West, to European countries, to the United States, to France, and to Britain and Canada, that for that, and because it sparked a movement in Africa that eventually led to independence movements there. It sparked an independence movement in Latin America against these colonial masters. All of a sudden, I mean, we talk about it proudly here in the United States of what the U.S. was able to accomplish in overthrowing British rule. And for these countries, it's always seen as somehow by many as, how dare you? how dare you do what you did, even though the ideals that Toussaint Louverture and Alexandre Pétion, the founding fathers of Haiti, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, what they were inspired by were the same things that our founding fathers here in the United States were inspired by. The ideas of the Renaissance and the Enlightenment about the freedom of man and man's personal and man's ability to decide his own fate, men and women's ability to decide their own fates. Those same ideas that sparked our revolution here, of course, they would spark that sense of determination in anybody around the world. But for that, they've been paying ever since.
Yeah, but I think the larger point that you get to too is the origin story here. I mean, we cover these various conflicts around the world without a full grasp most of the time for the history and the trauma and the origin story. I mean, even go back to the Middle East and what's unfolding between Israel and Gaza right now. And, that ultimately what happened October 7th re-triggered traumas for Jews going back centuries, millennia, really. And what's happening in Gaza is re-triggering traumas for Palestinians, going back to their origin story and the Nakba, et cetera. So, what we're talking about in Haiti or there's deep-seated stuff here. And many times we come in as journalists or, those of us watching the news come in and we're like already several hours into the movie and we didn't watch the beginning.
That's an excellent way of describing the situation. I've sort of have made it my mission. Yes, I've reported from the island going back to the earthquake in 2010. I've been back. I think I sent you a text. I've been back, every couple of years.
Yeah. 2010, 2011, 2012, 2015, 2017. And then you were there last May.
Yeah, I was there last May. That was a story that we did, a long form piece that we did where, again, we wanted to, while acknowledging the violence that is happening, we wanted to talk to people in the business community and ordinary people outside of Port-au-Prince about why the people who have the means to leave Haiti, who have the money, who have, who are highly educated, who've been educated in some cases at Harvard and other Ivy League institutions or top universities in America, but who are Haitian American, why are they still in Haiti attempting to be entrepreneurs and to start businesses? Because they feel this sense of pride that every Haitian, whether you're a member of the diaspora or you are still living in Haiti, the pride that goes back into this origin story, as you stated. It is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful story. I know that people will listen to us and they will watch us. I've seen, it was really heartbreaking, Mosh, to see on social media, when the prison, a week ago, a few days ago, there was the gangs initiated a prison break that
they broke out several thousand prisoners. Yeah.
And it was really disheartening and dehumanizing to hear dehumanizing language spreading on the internet that cannibal gangs were roaming the streets of Haiti, not even suggesting it was Port-au-Prince, but just that in Haiti, cannibal gangs were roaming and terrorizing the population, which is incredibly dehumanizing language. That in fact, former President Trump was right, that, Haiti was a shithole, that, it was alleged, and I'm stretching my memory here, that in a meeting in the Oval Office, the former president had indicated that all Haitians have AIDS, right? Like, that, when I read that, it was so heartbreaking to me because as a child growing up here in New York in the 1970s and 1980s, the first that people my age would have heard of Haiti before HIV was a thing in the United States, most people would have thought of Haiti in the way that you think of any other country in the world, whether it's a country in the Caribbean like Jamaica or the Dominican Republic or a country like in North Africa, like Morocco or Algeria. It's just another country where people come to the United States to take advantage of all that we have here. And then somehow the narrative became that Haitians brought AIDS to the United States, which is absolutely, obviously not true. It was complete misinformation in the age before of the internet. But it struck me as strange that my nephews, who at the time were still boys, would looked at me and wondered, why did former President Trump say that all Haitians have AIDS? They had no clue because that narrative had gone away because we now know, and we knew then, but now people understand that Haiti did not bring or introduce AIDS into the United States. But because Trump's a New Yorker, right, he perhaps had heard that as well. And so he injected that into,
and it stuck with him.
It stuck with him. And so he injected that back into the discourse, right? And it just struck me as as terribly heartbreaking to hear people suggest that what they're seeing on their screens every day, which I get, I understand, you get, everybody gets, that it's horrible. It's horrible to see children being shot at and unable to go to school. It's horrible to see the streets of a country which is littered with bodies. It's horrible to see people gunned down for simply trying to go to work and make a living to feed their families in a country where that is already incredibly difficult to do. But I'm so happy that you've given me this opportunity to talk about what I believe is still an incredible story that doesn't get a lot of mention. When you think about, as you stated, the origin of Haiti as the first, and just think about that for a second. Think about the countries that gained their independence in the 1950s and 60s from colonial masters, France and Britain and Spain and other countries, because those countries got tired of administering those countries, right?
Yeah.
The empires of those countries shrank. Oftentimes, yes, there were nationalist movements happening in them, but oftentimes it was, let's sit down, we're going to sit at the UN or in some big meeting room and we're going to figure out, okay, I mean, we talk about the Balfour Treaty, that kind of decision making where people sit in a room and then draw borders.
Right.
And then they say, you're now the state of Israel.
Right.
You are now,
Haiti predated that by 150 years.
Exactly. And in that way, that sense of pride, that sense of accomplishing something that people thought was impossible to do, is the pride that every Haitian, whether you're a member of the diaspora or you're in Haiti, carries in their heart every single day. And in the wake of the earthquake, I remember sitting there thinking to myself, my God, how can people suffer so much in so many ways? Every time they seem to take a step forward. For example, in the wake of the earthquake, we didn't even talk about the fact that cholera had ceased to exist in Haiti. And several years after the earthquake, UN peacekeepers reintroduced cholera into Haiti, and refused to apologize or to even acknowledge that they were directly responsible for that. That's been reported and confirmed that the United Nations was the group of peacekeepers were the ones that reintroduced this horrific deadly disease.
There was a huge issues related to that UN mission post the earthquake in terms of
right. So just as you start to get a little better, something like that happens and kicks you back down several notches. And yet through all of that, Haitians feel incredibly proud. I'll never forget once having a conversation with my stepdad as a child, so not understanding the way of the world. And I said to him, when we visit St. Martin or when we visit Martinique, those islands were all part of the French Empire, right? Martinique and St. Martin are still part of France. They are that when you're in Martinique, you're in France. And I one day said to him, I must have not only been 10 or 11. And I said, wouldn't it have been better just to, maybe just stay part of France? And ultimately things worked out, right? Everybody look at what's happening. Look at Martinique. It's a vibrant country. They use the euro. I mean, right? Yeah. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And, and I'm sort of ashamed to tell this story, but I think it's important. It's indicative of like how you sometimes have to think beyond the images that you're seeing or beyond the narrative that is often permeates through the media.
Well, that's often the trade many people make. I mean, that's the argument the Chinese and the Russians make, which is like trade your individual rights for stability and for cleanliness. Mm-hmm. It's the same issue going on in Rwanda, right? The streets are clean, right. But I was there a couple of years ago and I try to ask people what they think about Kagame, and they're like, he's the best thing ever. Why would I have any issues with the president? Because they fear the repercussions of that, and they've traded clean streets and stability for giving up a certain amount of civil liberties.
Right. And so when I said that to my stepdad, he looked at me and he said, "Let me explain to you why no one who's Haitian would ever agree with that sentiment." Yeah. And then he sat me down and re-explained to me the story of the Haitian Revolution and why it was such an important factor and such an important, momentous, seismic occurrence in world history, and Haiti's unique place in world history because of that. And at the end of the day, no one wants to be Martinique or St. Martin or the United States. They want to be who they are, which is Haitian, proud of their history, proud of where they came from, proud of their origin story, and sometimes hoping against all hope that one day they will be able to achieve the dream of their forefathers, of their revolutionary heroes who dreamed for Haiti, the same dream that everybody in the world has, which is to be able to be free and to have free will and to live in a place that is yours, but that is part of the fabric of the rest of society, of the rest of the world, where you participate in what is happening around the world on equal footing with every other country. Even if you're only small, even if you only got 10 million people, inhabitants there, you are on equal footing with all the other countries in the world who have a say in their own destiny. That is the hope that every Haitian has. Even in this violence that I see now happening, there are people who say, we know that things will get better because of who we are, who Haitians are, and who we came from. And I think that that's something that is unique. I frankly, and I've been traveling. I'm looking at a map right now of all the places that I've worked and reported from. Over 80 countries, and in all my travels and all my reporting, I've never seen it. It's not because I have Haitian ancestry that I feel that way. You might say it's because I'm biased, but I've just never seen, in the wake of such difficult and horrific strife, of people that are still proud of who they are and what they are. It's kind of remarkable. It kind of is. It's something that I'm immensely proud of.
I know we're still in the early phase here, and we don't like as journalists to make predictions. But I guess the question is, these gang leaders, Chevalier was saying, there'll be a civil war if this guy doesn't step down. Well, he's said he's going to step down. What comes in the wake of this? Who's playing who's playing the most important roles here? As much as we talk about how Haitians don't want external powers deciding their fate, it appears that, at least for a bit, you need the U.S. and some other countries to assist here in some way. Yeah. So, I guess as to not ensure that things go further south, do we see the rise of one of these so-called gang leaders elected? Are they particularly popular on the streets?
It's hard to say. You asked about why the Kenyans would be willing to come and help. It sort of goes back to the idea of why people in Africa feel this kinship or hold Haiti up as a light to the world. That's why they want to help. But the reality is, you have that schism in the Haitian American community, the diaspora here in the United States and Canada and France, and people in Haiti. There are some who want to see an external force of peacekeepers come to Haiti and try to stabilize the country as a way to get back to a level of stability. There are others who say, no, we have to do this ourselves, even if it's painful, even if it's hard. This is our country and our sovereignty, and we have to move forward in retaking the country. What that looks like in the form of a leader is anybody's guess, because some of the people that are being discussed are people that have spent time in federal prison here in the United States. Jimmy Cherizier is he may be, if people want to say that he leads a paramilitary group now, fine. But the reality is he's a thug. He's a thug who kills innocent people and has killed innocent people. It's hard to imagine that people would want somebody like that as head of state. It's hard to imagine that the United States would be willing to engage with a leader like that. We've had a history of engaging with unsavory leaders in the past, but maybe this is a bridge too far. It's hard. I don't know, but I think what's interesting to me, Mosheh, and the question that I've been asking as a journalist, and you should also be thinking about as a journalist, is where are the former presidents of Haiti who, in some cases, still live there? President Aristide is still in Haiti. Former President Martelly is able to travel back and forth between the United States and Haiti. I haven't heard their voices.
Why is that? Why has there been such silence?
That's a good question. Yeah. That's a very good question. There are probably people in Haiti who have ideas and speculations about why that is. Where are all these multimillionaires that are in Haiti that have an interest, a business interest in ensuring that the country is stable? Why don't we see them giving interviews at CBS News or on Mo News? Where are all these weapons coming from? Yes, there have always been guns in Haiti, but what I'm seeing now on the street, the heavy machinery that I'm seeing on the streets is unprecedented. Haiti doesn't have any gun manufacturing plants. These weapons are all coming in.
They have to come in from the outside. It's a small island, yeah.
But who's importing them and to what end? these are the questions that I had, that I know everybody else who covers Haiti, Jacqueline Charles at the Miami Herald. These are the types of questions that we're trying to get answers to. It's very, very, very hard because of the opaqueness of what I'm describing to you now. I think there would be a lot of people who'd be shocked when I say to you that there are multimillionaires in Haiti, and they do have an influence on what happens next. And that should leave you with some understanding, in a speculative way, about what we're seeing on the ground right now.
So one thing we talked about just before we hit record here in this conversation was the migrant situation that on the southern border. Also, I spoke to someone in Border Patrol in Florida who's, they're preparing for potential, rafts of people coming across. You have seen an increase in recent years, especially post-earthquake, in the number of Haitians who are making their way here to the U.S. And we were talking about, dealing with the border crisis, but also the underlying issues. Talk to me about that.
I don't think that we will see a huge influx, not more than what we've seen historically.
What we've already seen.
There are always Haitians coming to the United States, who are poor and will take their chance either in a raft or through the southern border through Mexico. But I don't think that this is going to lead to that fear that Governor Ron DeSantis is suggesting is why he's mobilizing, troops on the coastal line of Florida. Just because, as I've said, this is really centralized in Port-au-Prince. It's not the rest of the country. As I said, there are people, like the last time we were there when this violence was still ongoing, which was in May of last year, we went to Cap Haitien, Cap Haitian up in the north. It was fine. I mean, we walked the streets. No problem. I mean, we're at a decent hotel, but there was no issue with like armed guards surrounding the hotel. It was just life as usual. So I don't think that we're going to see that. But it raises a larger issue in a race for the White House where both of the candidates are talking incessantly about immigration and migrants and undocumented migrants. The struggle for me as a reporter who doesn't specialize in covering that part of that beat, if you will, is why the United States and other countries don't work together to figure out a way to help fix whatever it is that is causing people to leave their countries desperately to come to the United States. It's never going to end because you're always going to have people who want to come to the United States because of the offer of the American dream. But the notion that people are this mass movement that we've seen of people in the case of Haiti, which is a country, as I said, that is tied to the United States since the founding of both of the countries, there should be an urgency to try and help Haitians. Not to tell Haitians what to do, but to help Haitians figure out a path forward. It will be very interesting to see what happens. I will absolutely be watching to see who emerges as that leader that could potentially be a prime minister. I will be watching anxiously to see what, if anything, is done around the issue of election integrity and bringing elections back to the people. It's
something we take for granted here, right? In the U.S., that every 4 years we have a presidential election. Every 2 years we have an election. Your state has elections. It's never been a guarantee in Haiti.
Right. Even when there are elections that are held, as in the case for President Aristide, there's a coup and then he's exiled and then he comes back and wins an election again. But then there are election integrity issues alleged there. It's just this, it's heartbreaking. And you couple that with the fact that you made the point earlier about the Dominican Republic, and we don't have time to get into the very nuanced, the way that Haiti and the Dominican Republic their histories are inextricably tied.
That's a separate podcast. Yeah,
it's a separate podcast, but there are Haitians that are moving between the border of the Dominican Republic. The Dominicans have closed that border, but there is still trade that happens. Though
it was interesting the Dominicans wouldn't let in Ariel Henry when he was trying to get back to the country.
I mean, I think that probably, I got to believe that the United States played a role in that. I have to believe that the reason that President Henry was stuck in Puerto Rico or not able to land where he wanted to was, the U.S. has very
U.S. call said, don't let him
opinions.
in. We need him to get him to resign. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't, that's just sort of
speculation,
like
but
the State Department tea leaves. But yeah. So yeah, man. So this was, I'm really grateful that you gave me this opportunity to talk about this. On one hand, it's this incredible story of, as I keep sort of hammering home, because I want to leave your listeners and your viewers with this notion that the reason that they should care is because there's a vibrant diaspora here in the United States that contributes to all that we are here in the United States. And many, if you go back and you look at some of the immigrant groups, the most successful immigrant groups, Haiti's a much smaller percentage, obviously, of people who come from Nigeria or who come from China. But when you look at the numbers of Haitians in this country who've come here, the numbers show that they are better educated than most immigrants, and that they do rise to levels either through the law or through medicine or even through media in ways that other immigrant groups don't. In other words, they're one of the highly successful groups that have succeeded in this country beyond expectation. So there's that. And then, of course, the history, as I've described, which goes back to the Revolutionary War. So we should care about what happens to Haiti. We shouldn't think of it as a country of people who somehow don't deserve the dignity and the respect that you would afford any other country going through a difficult time. I know it's hard because you look at these images and you think to yourself, well, you obviously can't take care of yourself, right?
Sadly, you can't read a story about Haiti without the second or third graph, seeing the phrase, the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, right?
Yeah. And that it's interesting that became a lazy media narrative in the, I guess, the 80s and 90s. And it's still occasionally used, but, Haitians have been able to push back on that and say, look, if all of those things that I described earlier in our discussion had not happened, if France had not imposed this repatriation of money to its coffers, if the United States had not stolen Haiti's wealth, if the United States had not invaded the country and occupied the country, if Haitians had been able to trade with other countries. Remember, after the United States won its independence, Britain again tried to blockade the United States, which is why we had the War of 1812 again, right? When any country said, hey, we don't want to work with these radical Americans, the United States said, we're going to take our destiny into our hands and we're going to fight you again and continue to be able to do what we do. Haitians were never afforded that opportunity because of forces greater than them. And so if you imagine that those things had not happened, what the potential and the possibility could have been. I urge people to. We
can do alternate histories on Cuba. We can do alternate histories on Haiti. We can do it across the region.
If you go back and if people will take some time after they listen to this podcast and go back and just Google images of Haiti in the 60s and 70s and the 50s, you will see your mind will be blown. I wanted to do a story a couple of years ago when I was still at CNN. I wanted to do a story that took the images of Port-au-Prince in the 40s and 50s and superimposed them on the current capital to show you what the potential, when Haiti was Haiti, this is a kind of a funny story. This may be my parents telling me, but Haiti was one of the countries that immediately declared war on Nazi Germany after the Nazis invaded Poland, right? Mm-hmm. Like this little country, it's got 2 planes, why? Because of this sense of independence and liberty and the idea of a country like the Nazis, like Germany, invading a smaller, less powerful country annoyed the shit out of every Haitian. And so they said, well, we're declaring war too, just like the United States. And so, there was a time when Haiti was viable and was a wonderful place to be and to visit. My family had hotels in Haiti, and those hotels were where the rich and the famous came to play. Just like they did in Havana, just like they did in Kingston, just like they did in Santo Domingo.
And we can zoom out, just like they did in Beirut.
Exactly. In Beirut or in Kabul or in Tehran.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Vlad, we got a lot to talk about, as we always do, my friend. We could just
brother.
Go
awesome,
story by
man.
story, movies, countries, foreign policy,
Yes.
history, all of the above. But I appreciate you taking time today, and
I appreciate you, Mosh. You're such a good man. You're such a light in the world of media. I so appreciate what you're doing and how you're doing it. I know that you joked earlier before we started recording that even for you, this sort of whatever this media is that you are attempting to do is even every day new to you, but it really has become a light for a lot of people. I honestly believe that that freed from the restrictions that often those of us in legacy media have, that you are really kind of forging a new path for media. And it may look very different in 5 years. It will look different, as you know, but that you might be what that standard of what different is in the future. You're leading that charge. So I'm so incredibly proud that when you asked me to do this, I was really like proud and honored and very flattered, because your platform is enormous. When you talk about news on your platform, comms is not here, but, you get as many eyeballs and as much engagement as we do on our linear, broadcast. And that is remarkable. So, as we say in French, chapeau bas.
Tip of the hat. Vlad, I loved working with you, and I loved having you on, and hopefully we'll as the media evolves, my friend, hopefully we'll have an opportunity to work more closely together again sometime soon. Yeah.
One of the things that we wanted to do, Mosh, before you go is, we had such a success with me doing sort of a 90-second explainer on CBS Mornings, just what we did.
I caught the social media videos you've been putting out on this.
Yeah. And we did something again for Instagram and TikTok. And I said to the producers, why don't we try to do something like this? We've just spent, an hour talking about everything. But like, for example, one of the things that I wanted to do and will do is let's do a 2-minute explainer on Haiti's relationship with the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
There's a lot to discuss there, and that we want to sort of release those as we continue to talk about Haiti, because I think that just as you've given me this opportunity to speak about Haiti and the Haitian people, I think there's a lot of things that people don't know. And once they do know, then it's the reason why when I first met Anderson Cooper, he said, this was before the earthquake, obviously. And I said to him, he said, you're Haitian American. I love Haiti. I go to Haiti like on vacation. I have friends there. I've heard that from so many people Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, Haitians have definite ideals about the Clintons, which we don't need to get into. But the fact of the matter is that in 1970, they took their honeymoon in Haiti. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yes. When they were choosing where to go.
Vlad, I've been hearing from people, like, I know there's a very specific part of Haiti that the cruise ships stop at, but I've been hearing from tons of people being like, oh, I'm stopping in Haiti on my cruise right now. Like, should I be concerned? I was like, well, no, it's a different part of Haiti. Like, you're fine.
Different part of Haiti.
But yeah, I think this context is important here. One of the things that I have so enjoyed being on these new platforms, Vlad, is you actually find out that Americans and frankly all global news consumers are really craving context and history and facts that in many times, we're very limited in terms of what we can do on the traditional media platforms. And, I explained to people, I was like, giving a reporter a minute 45, on the evening news was effectively a documentary. You have less than 2 minutes to explain a really complex situation that even getting to the latest is impossible in that time period. Forget the whole 2 centuries that we just went through on this podcast. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I'm glad slowly but surely traditional media is seeing the light about the newer platforms and taking to go back to the beginning of this conversation, the internet seriously.
Yeah, for sure. You're absolutely right about that. And I will just leave your audience with just this, because we talked about a lot, but if people really are interested in what's going on there, I encourage them to just do a little research on the actual Haitian Revolution and its revolutionary heroes, Toussaint Louverture, Alexandre Pétion, Dessalines, what they were able to accomplish. Toussaint Louverture is actually buried in Paris in the same tomb, is Invalides that Napoleon is buried, which is kind of ironic. Take a look at the ideas that launched the Haitian Revolution. Take a look at the fact that the Haitians had to pay France reparations. So in other words, paying your enslavers for being enslaved. And then finally, take a look at the reporting that the New York Times did back in 2022, invaluable reporting that uncovered how when the United States Marines took that gold from Haiti, how they used that gold to help fund what is now Citicorp. And that will give people just a jumping off point to understanding why Haiti is in this mess today. And if people really care, why, when you see those images on your screen, you will understand the greater context. And maybe that will give people a little bit more of empathy for what their neighbors to the south are going through on a daily basis.
Vlad, good words to end on here. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Mosh.